Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Garrett Smith, also known as the Nutrition Detective around these here YouTube parts. And today I have a very special guest. We have a very special guest in Ken Liever of GetReviv.com and the Reviv Mouthguard. And we're going to talk about cranial structural collapse and his favorite topics. And I'll show you guys my mouth guards and we'll go over questions of how this stuff that he's doing and we're doing all works together. And I think maybe in a follow-up episode, I'm going to do our testimonials from people in the program, and I'll go over some of the research connecting toxicities and deficiencies to cranial structure. And yeah, but today, thank you for coming, Ken.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me. I'm very excited to be here. And
yeah,
you've been sending folks our way for so long. Big thanks to you for that.
Well, I started doing it actually. I forget his name. Let me see if I can find it on. A gentleman. I won't bother finding it right now, but a gentleman on the program commented under one of my videos, and he said, "Dr. Smith, I don't know if you've heard about this, but the Reviv Mouthguard has like really helped me, and I think you should check it out." And I was like, "Okay." And I went and I looked and I saw your stuff, and I saw kind of how you were contrarian to orthodontics and dentistry and all that stuff. And I thought this is my kind of guy. And it seemed so, the idea of this mouth guard really helping to restore cranial structure. It's kind of one of those things where I say it's so crazy, it just might work. Right. And so I bought one. Actually, I'll show you guys. I bought all of them. I have, let's see, we have the R1, we have the R2, we have the R3, and we have the day guard. Like I have all of them. I'm most partial to the R1. That is my absolute favorite. And last night I slept with the R3 because I didn't want to get out of bed and go find my R1. So I grabbed the R3. Anyway, I just want to say that, well, actually, let me give a little testimonial before we start, because I've been saying this on my videos, and that's one reason people have been coming and getting them. Since I have started this, the very first day I wore it to the gym, I felt more flexible. I felt like my neck was like elongating itself. Like I didn't have to think about, the chin tuck and doing all that stuff. Like it was a very strange feeling. I can say that my floaters are non-existent now. There was another thing. Oh, my sinuses have been way clearer. I mean, that's just all makes sense, right? It's just your skull, right? So if the skull nerves can flow better and there's more space for them and everything's aligning better, then it just makes sense. I've had you talk about unwinding or retracing, and I do too. And one of the things that seems to be unwinding or retracing is chronic neck pain that I used to have over here that kind of went away. And then it's kind of coming back, and sometimes I'll get one big crack on that side and then it feels better. I used to have to crack it all day, and now it's just, I can tell that it's getting better. Yeah, the flexibility increase. You wrote an article just the other day about soreness and stiffness and how you thought that was connected. I can say that, yes, I had made improvements in that from what I was doing, but I don't feel like I get sore from my workouts anymore. And the morning stiffness is way less. And we had several testimonials from people in the program also saying that. So I feel like I'm getting more quality out of my sleep, which is really important for me. So I just want to say, like, these are the things I've noticed since I've started. And I know you've heard of all these things before. And I just thought it was really great. That's one of the reasons I started sharing it with people, was I felt something shift so quickly. And then I had orthodontics, and I'd had the rubber bands to help correct an overbite. And I felt like I was kind of a really good test case for it. And the price of these mouth guards is so reasonable for potentially being such a gigantic impact on all aspects of your health. It would seem dumb to me not to do it. So anyway, why don't you, before we get into the questions, Ken, why don't you just give us a little background of the Reviv, your history, and a little background of the Reviv and how you got to it. And I know you've said that a lot on the internet all around, but I'd love to hear it here too.
Yeah, sure. So I was just a normal kid, kind of growing up in America, had my wisdom teeth when I was out when I was around 21, 22, and I started having kind of neck and back issues. I had also had some crowns, kind of. I'd had my teeth chipped because I played hockey, and then a dentist convinced me to put 4 crowns in my upper incisors. And so I don't know exactly what triggered it, but like throughout my 20s, I had a lot of neck, shoulder, back tightness. I always wanted to go to massages, and I just started exploring like what could this be, because it was bothering me so much. So for my 20s and 30s, I probably averaged 2 to 3 sort of medical type visits per week, and was spending, insurance plus lots of my own money. And it just became a part of my life because I felt like I was not functioning the way I should. And so I'd been to like every department in a hospital, especially like neurological stuff. I'd explored everything. And that was the point where I came up to 2013, where I was living in Ukraine, and a dentist said, "Hey, Ken, you might have TMJ. You should check this out." And then the dentist made me a splint. It was like a flat plane splint. And all of a sudden, all these tightness that I had to deal with every day was gone within a few weeks. And I was like, I thought he was a magician. And that was when the first war in Ukraine was starting, and I was moving my family out. We moved to Vietnam. I chewed through this splint within a few weeks of arriving in Vietnam, and I kind of went to a TMJ dentist that I found there and said, "Hey, make me something like this." I had no idea like the philosophy behind it. He made me something that didn't work as well. And then he said, "Hey, like I'm a TMJ dentist." He showed me a certificate on the wall from Australia. He's like, "Hey, let me adjust your dental contacts." And I was, like the first one was a magician. I was like, fine, just make me feel good again. And I was playing with my phone, and the guy's like drilling on my back teeth for quite a while. And I had no idea what happened. That was 2014. Within a couple months of him doing that, like I just didn't function. My vision had gotten dull. I felt like a hermit. I didn't want to go out of the house. Like my wife would drag me out of the house. I only wanted to go out of the house, go to church. And I forced myself to do my job, but I asked to be demoted 2 levels because like my brain fog was so thick that if I didn't type it, it was out of my head 5 minutes later. I'd lost all ability to kind of think deeply about anything. And I started looking a lot worse. Like my neck had changed. My body was changing rapidly. And I just had no idea. I was a relatively healthy guy to that point. I think I was 37 years old. And this threw me into this realm, like on the deep end of, okay, like your teeth relate to the body somehow, because it all just went south on me really fast. And that led me to this journey where it was a very dark 6 months or so, where I was like, thought I was just lost in 2014. And then I found something called Styrecta first in 2014. And that was like a DIY method. And they had a book and so that got me into this world. It wasn't a perfect solution, but it got me out of some of my worst symptoms. And I just kept iterating on myself. I met a couple of people in the community, and that became my life from 2014. Even until today, I'm still not done, but I consider that I more or less figured out how these like biomechanics or physics work as of late 2021. So it's kind of been an upward trajectory since then. And like I've just seen the power of your teeth on your life play out on my life in a very like roller coaster way for 11 years. So like for me, it's just like it's very obvious at this point, at least from my experience.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I mean, the one of the things I liked that you were talking about is, you're talking about the flat plane mouth guard, and it's really about putting that space, especially in the back molars, correct? And when you simplified it to that, and you're like, you could use a whole bunch of things to do this. When you said that was when you weren't saying like, I have some magic angles and magic material and doing all this stuff. And you said, this is really like the basics of it. That was when I trusted you. When you said like, here's the foundation and this is what we're doing. And when you said you could do it with other things, I was like, okay, that's my guy. Like, that's going to make me stick with you because you were honest. And I like to think that I try to do the same thing with all of this. I'm like, I tell people you can do whatever you want. This is the way that I've found to help people. So let's get into some of the other questions. But yeah, you have Joe will post the link to get Reviv in the chat for those of you who want to go check it out. There is a discount code too. Joe will post that too. And then let's get into the questions. So, okay. I'll let you start on this, but we'll start with, is chronic disease driven more by structural dysfunction or structural collapse or biochemical toxicity, or do they interact? And so I'll let you start on that one.
So I've never been an expert on toxicity myself, but I definitely feel like when my structure got worse, my toxicity got worse, right? I had more like stomach issues and more like issues in general. Because like I'd never had a major issue with it, and like it came with the structure, that I'd always kind of associated it. But I do think that they can exist in parallel, and the structure is not the only cause, right? I'm sure that there's other exterior. So that's kind of my take.
Okay. Well, yeah, one of the things I was thinking about was like, let's say somebody's exposed to a huge dose of pesticides and they have amazing structure. Is the structure going to help them? Is it going to help them through it? Absolutely. Yeah. Like the better structure would be better, but still it's a poison. Like it's still going to affect them somehow. I saw your post about like, who was it? The Motley Crue guy, Tommy Lee and stuff like that. And it did make sense. So like, cause there are people, we know there's tons of people out there who are more resilient physically. Why is that? Could good structure be a part of that they never ruined? You know, they never damaged it like many of us did with orthodontics, or, you know, I had all four of my wisdom teeth pulled, you know, all this stuff that is unnatural that we do. The thing that I think where our work can really intersect is like, I have a whole research document of stuff connecting, like vitamin A is well known to cause cleft lips and cleft palates, vitamin A toxicity. Alcohol does the same thing. The funny thing is alcohol and vitamin A, the thing we think about when we hear birth defects, we tend to think folate deficiency, right? Well, both alcohol and vitamin A deplete folate. So then we connect that. And then there's zinc deficiencies and there's all sorts of stuff that, so what I'm thinking is what we've seen in my program with your Mouthguard. So people were already doing my stuff and working on detox and working on nutrient status. And then we put in the Mouthguard and we've got people saying like their teeth are shifting in 2 weeks. And like I said, I felt it immediately. And I think that our people are kind of primed. Well, what I was thinking about how the Mouthguard was going to fit into our stuff. What if toxicity stuff, toxicity damage, toxicity changes? What if the body doesn't have a way of undoing that by itself? Or if, you know, you lost molar height or whatever, it's just the body can't get out of it by itself. So there might be residual problems that hang around, even if somebody had detoxed everything. So then what if we put this in, the body is less toxic. So there's like that toxic pressure of causing the structural collapse. And we remove the toxic pressure, but let's say we didn't have a biomechanical way of restoring it. That's where the Mouthguard comes in. And that's where I think our people are really seeing amazing results quickly. And that's where some people, let's say they do the Mouthguard, but they're still really toxic. There may be things that can't be fixed. I mean, could they detox faster than they would have otherwise? Absolutely. Yes. But there may still be things that are residual that would help them to get rid of. Oh, I actually found copper. Copper toxicity, a big thing I've been going into lately. Copper causes cranial malformations too. So all these things that we were already working on are the very things that are known in the research to cause cranial malformations. So these things coming together, it's not one or the other. I don't think it's one or the other at all. I think it's both together. And like you're saying, good structure would feed good detox from the beginning. And we have a lot of people who have had, you know, as you know, a lot of dental work, a lot of orthodontics, lots of trauma, lots of whatever. I actually think now my son, this is embarrassing to say to you, but my son, before I knew about your work, and I have an ex-wife who is, okay, my dad was a dentist. My ex-wife's was a dentist. Well, a father was a dentist. Kelsey, my girlfriend now, her mother was a dentist. So we are like dentistry everywhere. But it ended up that my ex-wife wanted my son to get orthodontics. And we go in and they're like, oh, we just need to really fix his bite so he doesn't have TMJ problems. And part of me is rolling my eyes and going, orthodontics would be one way to TMJ, right? And so they're doing it on him, and he's wearing his rubber bands and he's doing all this stuff. And then in his PE class, he gets a little back injury because they were having him squat, right? I don't think it was the squatting that does it, but it seems to be hanging around. And now in the back of my mind, I'm going, is it the stupid orthodontics that are doing this? And then my plan is to, there's not going to be no retainer. Once the braces are off, it's Reviv. It's that we're going to fix this problem early on and not have him going through life with all this stuff that I may have had too, or you may have had. So anyway, just wanted to say that. Anything else you want to add to that?
No, I think that's a great idea. I like with braces and things, I think a lot of the damage comes after. It's the years after, because a lot of, if braces within 2 years completely change the way a person looked and functioned, like, humanity's probably smart enough to pick up on that pattern. But the problem is that it does drag, like this damage. You just like age at this accelerated rate for, 5, 10, 15 years, and in 10 years, it's probably obvious, but in 1, it might not be.
Yeah. One of the things I liked that you said was about how when people have these structural problems and they start to do like the trends of really heavy, really hard exercise, and it accelerates the structural collapse. Well, I was a personal trainer before I got into medicine. And I can say that when you said that, I was like, wait, maybe that's what was happening to people just crushing themselves with all this exercise. Maybe, some of it was the exercise. Yes, just too much, but it makes sense. So, well, let me balance that out. I have felt that the most important time for me to wear the mouth guard is during my exercise, stretching, other exercise. Like that is the time. If I don't have it, like I love to sleep with it in, but if I am not working out with it in, I feel like I'm missing something. Like my body literally is like, where is the mouth guard? Because I want it. And I think that, like, you've got the exercises to accelerate things. I think doing it during other forms of exercise is also, that's when your fascia and everything could remodel the most. And that's actually when you're modeling the bones by stressing them, right? So if we're modeling things while we have better structure, it makes sense that we'd get more results out of it. So that's kind of where you were talking about the collapse. And I was looking at the exercise thing. I was like, that all makes sense.
Yeah. And one interesting thing about that is that your bite holds your current structures. It's something I used to test a lot. Like I do yoga and I'd have this, what I call tracking splint, where you're using articulating paper and you're putting the contacts on your last 4 teeth. And I do yoga 20 minutes and I do the articulating paper and the contacts completely changed. Right. So that told me that, okay, any exercise, any like working out you're doing is going to change your bite. Right. But I was doing that exercise with what I call non-locking bite, which is my teeth already didn't come together in a fixed position. Like for most of the last 10 years, I only have contact on my front teeth. And so, if you're exercising with a locking bite, and like a healthy human being will have a locking bite, they're preventing their skeleton from kind of remodeling during that process. But the minute you pop a mouth guard in, now you're unlocked. Your upper and lower teeth can move from like your jaw.
Well, at least as long as the teeth aren't molded, right? As long as it's flat plane.
Yeah, as long as whatever you got in your mouth is not molded to the teeth. Exactly. Yes. Just like flat.
Or at least one side, like the day guard, where the day guard.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, cool. That was the other thing I wanted to say about this connection that I saw early on was I remember a holistic dentist in town saying, like, if you're going to go and get braces, like you should regularly do cranial sacral work like every month, because you're literally messing with the skull. And you should try to go and get the skull to kind of be at least more okay with it. And then who was it who said, was it somebody in your group? They said, I don't remember where I saw it, but somebody said they went to a cranial sacral therapist with the mouth guards. And with the R1 in, the cranial sacral therapist said, like, everything's flowing better. Everything's like aligning better than without it. Yeah, I think that was in your group. And that's where I saw it. And I was like, I'm putting all these things together and I'm going, this makes a lot of sense. So that was really cool. So let's get into the next one. Okay, so we had somebody, we had the Airway champion on our podcast, on our live stream here a while back, but I want to ask you, since the Reviv can help with breathing and sleep apnea and stuff like that, I wanted to ask you, can airway dysfunction, well, maybe this is for me, but can airway dysfunction impair detox or liver detox or impact other things that you'd like to add?
I think my point of view is like the Reviv does, in my view, improve the airway, how you breathe, how you sleep, and like that allows the body to help detox, right? And I feel like I'm almost constantly detoxing, right? Like now I have this cough. A lot of people think I'm sick, but I could kind of like feel like I'm just getting this stuff out of my body. So I think that there's, like, is it the airway or is it the structure that is leading to this detox? Like, it's hard for me to say, okay, like it's specifically the airway, right? But because I think a lot of things are changing at the same time. But I think they're like my experience is like they're very correlated.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I've been making people very aware of is that your detox processes in the body are oxidative processes. So they need oxygen. So if you breathe better and you can get better air exchange, oxygen exchange, then your detox will just run better. So I think that's a very important thing. And like I said, my sinuses were clearing up. One of the things that Rhonda, the airway champion, was talking about was, blowing your nose and cleaning out your airway before you go to sleep. And I'm going, well, my airways are just clearer now. And I think it's amazing that and it does move your lower jaw a little forward in position, right? If you're wearing the R1 or 2 or 3, so that will move your tongue a little more forward, so it's not going to be as likely to fall back and block your throat. So yeah, it's just a mechanical way of helping your breathing while you sleep. And like I've noticed, and you've probably had lots of other people notice, my quality of sleep has improved a lot. Like I feel like I get more rest out of less sleep or more rest out of the same amount of sleep than I used to. So yeah, so let me head into the next one. Oh, well, we've already been talking about this, but if someone has poor sleep due to sleep apnea or their airway collapsing or other stuff, can they ever detox properly? We kind of already been hitting on that. Is there anything else you want to add to that?
No, I
okay. I'll just look here and I'll see what else we have. Okay. Oh yeah, let's go into this. So root causes versus symptom treatment, right? So we both know about, well, a lot of dentistry and orthodontics and other things where they're messing with our teeth and our jaw and our skull and stuff like that is they're attempting to do symptom treatment, right? Whereas, well, I want to hit on this pretty hard. So the root cause, let's say, as you're proposing, right, that if you don't have the right structure, especially in your mouth, then the skull, kind of like a balloon, starts to collapse. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So one of the things also that I know about, let's say, vitamin A toxicity is will actually cause the cranium to expand because of idiopathic intracranial hypertension, and babies who get it will have like these giant skulls. So there is both angles to it. And where was I going into? Oh, so root cause stuff. So like as an example, with the Mouthguard, like you kind of say that if you get great results, this is what I've interpreted. If you get results or great results with the Mouthguard, you're going to have to kind of keep doing it for good, right? Did we lose your mic? Hold on, we lost your mic.
No, I'm back.
Okay, great.
So the way I view it works is you're improving, like this curve of speed that I talk about, how the upper and lower teeth come together, right? So when you're using the mouth guard, you're improving the curvature speed. So I view this curvature speed as just a reflection of the quality of the structure of your skull.
Okay.
And that dentists call it a posterior bite. And it doesn't happen to everyone, but it'll happen to most people that wear a mouth guard for an extended period. So your back teeth will stop touching. And what I learned the hard way numerous times, and this is part of why I took this journey is like 10 years old for me, is that I would leave that gap open and stop wearing a mouth guard. Like I was using various oral plants, right? I was using ALL, I was using many things. So like it wasn't a linear journey for me. So I didn't know that, the mouth guard was all I needed at the early stage. And I would just leave this open for a while and I would collapse. And at the beginning, you feel kind of normal. So you're like, oh, I'm not collapsing. But then like you when you compare yourself like 3 months later, you say, oh yeah, I collapsed. So my main point is you cannot like leave a posterior bite unsupported. But if you were to do this process to the end, which the end is almost like this hypothetical end, because I think it takes a long time. Most people won't get there. Hypothetical end is like you have a perfect skull, right? Like perfect palate, like everything's according to genetic design, and you didn't grind down your enamel. I think that the teeth would all come together. You wouldn't have a posterior bite, and you just function. And so then you wouldn't hypothetically need to wear a mouth guard.
Okay.
But the reality for most people is it's going to take a long time to get there, and they got to more or less continue wearing a mouth guard. So, like the answer is kind of yes.
Okay. So here's what I was thinking of. First of all, like it's just like fitness, right? Let's say somebody gets really fit, and if they want to maintain that fitness, they still have to do something to maintain it. Like, so, you still got to do things. The endpoint idea is great, right? People ask me, when am I ever going to be fully detoxed? And I'm like, you live in a world where you're exposed to toxins all the time. So like you just the act of living is going to create toxicity, and you're just like a car makes exhaust. So the process never ends. Of course, there's this, like you were talking about, the most intense things are going to be at the beginning. And then as you go on in time, the detox events or whatever are going to be smaller, and they're going to be less intense. And then you make it to the point where you don't notice them at all. I actually wonder though, when you're the hypothetical endpoint where the teeth all come together, I would just say maybe, let's say, if toxicity got in the way of that and was constantly kind of yanking on the system, that could be an inhibitor of things getting to, or they could make things go much slower. Or if you got there, it could pull things out a little bit. It's just a thought. I like both of us.
I agree. I think so. Like I think of the body like this, is that if you were to just wear a mouth guard, this process would be massively long. Like you would get some good progress there, but then it would be very slow, right? So I talk a lot about it. I do stretches, I do other things, and there's a lot of things you can do. But I view like removing toxicity is very similar to the stretching. Like it's to accelerate the process. And if you do this process just with the mouth guard, it's very slow. It's going to take you a real long time. You'll probably never get to the end, right? But if you do these other things, you're going to get there a lot faster. And that, I'm doing a lot of these other things like every day. So that's why I go pretty fast.
Yeah, it does all kind of synergistically work together. I mean, it makes sense. Like I joke, I do a lot of car analogies, right? And there's in a car, right? The structure would be extremely important because that's the basis of how the whole thing runs. But then you're talking about the oil and the gas and the water and the radiator and the electrical system and all the systems within the car that have to work together. So if we make any one of those systems work better, generally the car works better. So, structure, if the structure is not working though, things are not gonna work well. And I was always looking for things to help with exercise and structure, and being a personal trainer and then going into medicine, I was always like, people are really messed up, and I don't know where to give them a good starting point to not go and mess themselves up more in the gym. Even with the best intentions, they can go and mess themselves up. So that was where this came in. And it made sense that from what I've seen, a lot of stuff, people can work on their feet and help everything above it, right? Because that's how you interact with the ground. And now we have something to start from the top down. And then if we can do both, I think a lot of things can fix themselves. So anyway, let's get to the next thing. Oh gosh, yeah. A lot of these questions we had were kind of answering. Well, is there research out there related to what you're doing that you
So
found?
I used to look at a lot of research in the early years. I can't say like I'm up to the latest. So I'm speaking more from the perspective of when I used to Google a lot, which is
Mhm.
from the years of 2014 to about 2018. And you'll find a lot of research on like flat plane splints, which is, Dr. Brennan Stack's done some research, and he's got there's Dr. Yunjun Lee. There's a lot of people that have you'll find like on PubMed like flat plane splint research and how it's had some benefits, and they've used it on kids. And then you'll find some like MyoBrace has been around since 1989, and it's functionally the same mouth guard as ours. And so they're straightening teeth and whatnot for a while, and they've said some things and done some research. And there's a lot of dentists, hundreds of dentists are using that all over the world. I did MyoBrace on my kid first in Russia back in 2018. So I think like you'll find a decent amount about kind of another one is the NTI-TSS splint, which is something I used for a little while years ago, and many dentists are using it for a long time. Same physics, right? It adds height between the teeth. It's flat contact. It's going to improve you, and so you'll see your like research studies on that splint. So this is the kind of stuff you'll find. You won't find them kind of making the more crazy conclusions that I am, that like that this goes as deep as I think it does, but I partially believe that that's because I learned how to do this faster. And so I say that I kind of took this to the end in 2016 and 17, and then I screwed it up very quickly after. But I saw that like there's kind of this soft tissue end that I got to where it just felt like I looked and functioned the best of my entire life while doing like no real effort other than just doing this process. And that was where I was like, oh wow, like if that's true of every human being, then this could be massive in its implications. So
Yeah.
that's where you won't find research.
Well, so that's kind of I'm trying to liken that to what I've said is that toxicity makes detox slower. Like we just slow down, right? A car that's all gunked up gets slower. Well, then, so let's just say the connection between toxicity and structure. Let's say toxicity changes structure for the worse, and then the structure gets worse, and then the whole detox process gets worse. So it just becomes this like avalanche of things piling onto each other. And then fixing the structure is one way that you could get out of a lot of it. And then we have the other side of it too. So then we can remove that. I don't know, like if you want to call it toxicity pressure, I'll just call it that on it. So then we can make even more progress. Okay.
One thing I would just say to that as well is my experience is kind of mirrored that, in that I remember this process being a lot easier and shorter when I took this to the end the first time in 17. Now I'm trying to repeat it, and I'm trying since late 21, which is it's like 4.5 years already, and I'm still not there. I thought I'd be done like a year or two ago, and I can say like I'm detoxing myself a lot more
Mhm.
this time than that time. And also like because I had these really stressful years where I was living also in places like Russia and stuff where I had access to shisha, and I would like smoke shisha every day.
Mm.
And I feel like I'm detoxing myself a lot more now after those years. So
Yes. Yeah. If you stop, we have a saying here: you got to stop intoxing first before you really start detoxing.
yeah,
And there's the big argument on Twitter right now where people are arguing over which is better or worse, alcohol or marijuana. And I'm like, y'all are sitting there wasting your energy on this, like the devil's brew versus the devil's lettuce. Sure, go argue about all of it. I don't care. Anyway, so what was I going to say? The one of the things. Well, yeah, I talk about the magic of youth here, right? So the magic of youth in terms of detox and recovering from health things. I tell people like, look, the younger you are, the faster it's going to go and the easier it's going to go. The older you are, the slower it's going to go and the harder it's going to go. Now, this could, I mean, we have the older we get, the more toxicity we can accumulate, right? We just been around longer, but then also the older we are, the more time we've had for the structure to collapse. And so again, we have both angles coming on with this. So I think that is about all the questions I have. Ken, are you okay to stick around? We can go into some of the questions in the chat
Yeah,
that
sure.
people have. Okay, cool. You guys, like I said, I think I'm going to do another episode. I'll go over the toxicity and deficiency stuff that I have in terms of cranial structure, and then I'll go over our testimonials from on the Reviv that we have so far. Unless I could do the testimonials here, but that's just me reading stuff. That gets a little boring. I don't want to have you sitting around waiting for that. So let's see. Let me go. If you want to look at the live chat too, Ken, I don't know if you can do that. But let me see. Yeah, so Joe already posted Unlock the Constitution, said I love the R2 and the Day Guard. Actually, let me add something here about what I've found about the different mouth guards. First, so I Ken, and you can correct me on any of this. You're the expert, right? So what I tell people is, I mean, first, if you can get one of each of the mouth guards to try them all out, that would be optimal, in my opinion. Like, because you're going to probably like one or the others. I love the R1. I love the chewiness of it. It doesn't last as long, right? Because it's more chewy. It's like almost like a gummy, like those jelly sandals, you know, kind of thing. But it feels the best. Like I've told people it's kind of like stimming. Like you get to chew on it a little bit, and it feels really good. Now, the next one I tell people is the R3, because you made improvements on that one where there's bigger air holes, saliva holes, whatever you want to call them, and it's a little lower on the front gums. And then I tried the R2. The R2, as you probably heard from feedback, is it's chunkier, harder to close your mouth around, can poke into your gums a little more than the other ones. But if you want to try the R2, I'm sure some people love the R2 also. And then the Day Guard, this is the one that does mold to your bottom teeth, and then it's got the flat top. And I tell people if the gum stuff really bothers them from the other guards, which gets better, it does get better. But if you have a lot of gum irritation, you might want to do the Day Guard. If you can't handle the gum irritation from the other stuff. But just know it's just like lifting weights, right? You're going to be sore at the start. You're not going to like it. It's going to feel bad. And just do it as much as you can until you get over it. But yeah, I tell like R1, R3, and the Day Guard would be ones I would prioritize, and just figure out which one you like. Oh, and the other thing I tell people say, should I get like the large or the medium? And I just tell people, as an adult, unless you have a freakishly small mouth, do the large, the normal adult size. That's been my simplistic stuff. But I've also heard in the testimonials that you and I think anyone else you have working with you is extremely quick with replying and helpful with suggestions on the measurements or what size and all that stuff. So how does that sound in terms of my interpretation of it?
No, that sounds pretty spot on. And the size, like we consider the width is the most important, because the one, like the physics are simple, right? Put something between your teeth, unlock out the bite. Like the size, it doesn't have to fit great. It just needs to fit. But like the one time that it won't fit is like if your teeth are, you know, if it's too small and your teeth are just sitting on top of it rather than going into the channels.
Right.
And then if it's too large, sometimes like people just feel like it's too like bulky and, you know, but yeah, like the fit doesn't need to be perfect.
Okay.
And the one thing I want to say about the gums is one thing that people, you know, like a lot of people say, hey, it's sore in the gums, especially R1, R2. But part of what happens, like if you pay attention to like what malocclusion looks like on most people, is that the gums are like covering the top part of the tooth on at least some of the teeth. And that's part of because the teeth never extruded properly. So a lot of people like automatically jump to like, oh, it's like receding a little bit, but like the part that they see receding is usually the part of the tooth that's actually supposed to be exposed. So that's also something to understand. It's like your teeth are the pout's gonna widen, the teeth are gonna kind of extrude out of the gums, and you're gonna see like a lot of the tooth, but it shouldn't be the roots. So that's just something I'd add.
Okay, cool. That's great. So yeah, no, that's what folks, if you can buy them all and try them out, great. If not, you know, if you want less gum stuff, then R3. If you're okay with if you want it softer and like the original one, that's the R1. Like I said, that's the one I like. My blue one is dead. I finally got through my blue one, and it had cracked, and that's normal. Like you're gonna chew on it, and I know I probably had some clenching. My dad's grinding. My dad being a dentist, right? My dad's grinding. He had the flat teeth, right? So his teeth were completely flat across from grinding so bad. And then he ended up getting prostate cancer. So, and he died of prostate cancer in his late 60s. So who knows what all that dentistry and other stuff and the clenching and the grinding did to his bite that accelerated that process. So let's go look at, okay, Stephanie said, I just got the R1 last week. I plan on picking up a few more. It's awesome. Really cool of you to give free shipping. You really do a lot to help people be able to afford this. You really do. And I want to say, I really appreciate that. And that's like the free shipping and stuff like that. The shipping can take a little while to the US. That's the way it is, folks. That's just shipping is, I want to tell you how bad shipping is right now. We literally have people we ship supplements to multiple times. And then now we're getting sometimes shipments back from USPS and they're saying the address doesn't exist. And we've shipped to the same address through the USPS site multiple times. Like USPS is falling apart. So guys, remember, don't take it out on the vendor, like the person selling you the stuff for the shipping problems. They didn't do it. And I'm sure you know all about that because you guys are shipping from where? Where do you ship the Mouthguards from originally?
We first shipped from China.
Okay.
But then we moved. So now we use Amazon multi-channel fulfillment in the US. Plus we have 2 other 3PLs in the US, one in Alabama, one in Pennsylvania. So we kind of mix it up now, depending on what the person ordered. And, you know.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, it's fun. Supply chain stuff these days is pretty crazy. Yeah. So let's see. Oh, Laura Lee 2514 said R3 rocks. Let's see. Jana Grebe said, I just ordered the R3 in its cleaning case. Excited to try it out for my husband. Only thing that freaked me out was the possibility of a posterior open bite in the general terms and conditions. Do you want to add? You kind of already said some stuff about it. Is there anything else you want to add on that?
No, I think it's important to understand some of the philosophy behind this is that the curvus B, the teeth don't like, things are remodeling, curvus B improves, leaves an interim small gap because the teeth don't immediately extrude to close it. And as long as you support a posterior bite at night, you just keep improving is the, plain. So like, yeah, if you have a posterior bite, the only time a posterior bite is bad is if you have an open posterior bite and you just let it close on its own. But even then, like you will regress back to where you were before or even better, right? Like, yeah. So that's kind of how it works.
No, that was an important thing. It was like the concern about the posterior open bite. I went, so let's say, I'm just going to throw out a number. Let's say you wear the Mouthguard for a while and 50% of your health problems improve. Some of them disappear. Some of them are way better. And all you have to do is wear a Mouthguard at night. I'm like, would I take that trade? Absolutely. Like, I'm not worried about what a dentist says if I have a posterior open bite when like I'm fixing potentially some of the things that they caused to me in the past. Like, it's like if you want to be fit, you got to keep exercising. It's the same idea. If you do all this detox work, people say, when can I go and eat vitamin A and copper without having to worry about it again? And I say, when can an alcoholic start drinking again? And they go, well, no, they're probably going to slip back into it. And I go, this is the thing. As you noted with the collapsing, when you stopped using the Mouthguard, when you would try it came back faster. Like most of us know that if an alcoholic goes back to drinking, they crumble faster. We know, like people who have detoxed a lot, they start eating toxic foods again. They very quickly feel it and they go, I don't feel good doing this. I feel worse. Like, why is this happening so fast? But then if they stop eating them, it comes back quickly. Like they fix themselves fairly quickly. So just know, folks, like if we're doing these things to get improvements, yes, it does get easier, but you do still have to keep doing them. And if the trade for massive health improvements is to wear a Mouthguard every night, or at least most of the nights, so you're not forgetting, that you decide if you want to take the trade. It's up to you. You know what I mean?
One other thing I just want to mention is that there is another option, but you need a dentist.
Oh yeah.
Which is what I did on my kid. Like you can just add flat composite. So composite is something every dentist knows. They use it on fillings and stuff. And so I've had this flat composite on my kid for over 4 years because he didn't like wearing the mouth guard. And he would always fight me on it. I wouldn't wear it to sleep. And he was still mouth breathing and misdeveloping. And so we just did that. And, he still wears a mouth guard for a couple hours during the day. And
even with the composite on.
Yeah, I view that the mouth guard accelerates it. So I want him to wear that a little bit, not just rely on the composite. But, he's only improving. He got rid of all his issues just by the composite. So like the other way to just finish, if you really want to finish, is you find a dentist put flat composite on your back 2 lower teeth, and you make that the only contact in your mouth, and you chew absolutely fine. Right? Like my kid has had no problems chewing for the last 4 years. I had this composite on for like 6 months back in 2019, chewed fine. So it's not an issue.
And what is the general height of that? Did you say? And do they need to check it to like make sure you're equal on both sides, stuff like that?
So this is how the mouth, it doesn't have to be equal.
Okay.
And sometimes you'll only have you might have equal contact because the dentist does it initially like that. And then like a couple weeks later, it might only be contact on one side and it's not completely touching on the other. And that's fine. And that's how you realize like the skull doesn't work like this. It's not like leveling a roof or something. It's more like a balloon to me. Like I would wear like a dental, I call them clip-ons. I would make them myself and I would only put it on one side. So I'd have like this big thing on one side, contact only there, and I'd be like that for weeks. And I only improved. So it's not like you need to like have this even thing on your mouth. But the height, so the way it works with kids, or the way like if you want to do this yourself, is you put enough and like you're gonna have a gap between the front teeth. So I usually say like leave kind of a pinky between the front teeth, and then usually that'll close. And the reason it closes is like you're grinding a little bit of the composite off, but mainly the curve is improving. So if you think about how the engineering works, like if there's a gap and then you put more of a curve in, like the gap's going to close. So the gap closes, your front teeth contact, and you got to put more.
That's awesome. I think you have information on your Substack about it, but like how many millimeters did you say it was like typically?
It depends on the structure of the mouth and how flat the curvature is. That's why I don't put a specific number on how much to put there. Rather, I say how much of a gap to put. So you put like 2 to kind of 4 millimeters of a gap, and whatever that works out to, because it'll be different on different people.
And the composite wears down over like, did you say 6 months, a year?
It doesn't completely wear down from my experience with my kid. Okay. Like it'll take some off, and then the other things are changing as well, and therefore you need to add more like every 4 to 6 months, at least for the first few years. Yeah.
Cool. Let's see, what else do we have? Oh yeah, Lior 555. This was you posted this on Substack the other day. He said, "What's interesting is how some report diarrhea at some part of the process. Hello, bile dumps." So that's what we talk about, or also the headaches that the one woman had, where she had headaches for months, and then all of a sudden her brain fog, the headache stopped and the brain fog went away. So this is like literal detox. The diarrhea we tend to look at as lots of bile being dumped, and as people get better, generally they make more bile. And more bile tends to lead towards loose bowels. And so it's kind of, again, we're seeing how it all fits and how we can improve detox through fixing structure, and we can improve detox through less toxins and other ways of improving stuff leaving. So that's cool.
Yeah. One quick thing I want to add to that is I wrote this in a post once, but like I can pretty much give myself diarrhea on demand because I have these stretches that I do. And I know that if I put that amount of pressure and then when it comes down, like I will have diarrhea. Like I pretty much do diarrhea on demand for like a couple of years. So like I've seen that connection very clearly on myself.
Cool. Actually, Joe, while we're here, or actually, Ken, what is your Substack? Do you know it off the top of your head?
Reviv, REVIV.substack.
There. Oh, Joe's got it. Okay, cool. Thanks, Joe. Okay, so then Eliza 0 said, "I'm sold. Can't wait to try it and get one from my hubster. Actually, any excuse to throw away his nasty mouth guard is an easy sell, to be honest." Okay, Alicia Hiraki 5231 said, "So should I get my lower permanent retainer that I've had for over 40 years removed to get the benefits from Reviv? I have a Reviv 1. You have an answer for that one?
Yeah, so the teeth need to move to have the most benefit with this, and they will move every day. Pretty much all the teeth, like especially if you've worn a retainer for that long, like all the teeth will move pretty much every day, and that you want that remodeling. So if a retainer is holding the bottom, like you're mitigating how much this process can do for you. So yeah, it's better to take it off, but like you can start without it and kind of build your confidence, and then when you're psychologically ready, some people like, it's not an easy thing to just take off.
Yeah. I remember I had a permanent retainer in there for, I don't know, 10 or 15 years. And finally I just went, if they've, according to the orthodontic idea, right, if the teeth have moved into place and they've been there for 10 or 15 years, like I shouldn't need this thing on there anymore. Like they should be set. And I had them take it off. The other thing that I'm wondering, I don't know if you've seen this, but so I had this little gap, right? And I was wondering if it's possible do you think that will close?
Yeah, I think so. Eventually. Okay. And the other thing I want to say about retainers is I view retainers kind of like handcuffs to the body's natural defense, because if you didn't have it on, the teeth would move to where it supports the skull, right? And then I talk a little bit like the jaw needs a couple different positions supported if you have a locking bite. So when you change the teeth with orthodontics, you mess up those other jaw positions. And that's what that was one of the things I was experimenting with back in the day. I felt like you cannot just lock a single bite the way orthodontics does. You need several bites supported by the cusp of the teeth, right? So like a retainer is just basically locking what the orthodontist did, and the brain is saying, hey, no, like I need these other bites supported, and this retainer doesn't do it. So like it just collapses.
Yeah, Alicia, I would say, like Ken, it makes sense to me that if you have something locking the teeth in place, it's not going to do what it could do. It's not going to fully do what it could do. The only thing I can say is Kelsey likes my tooth gap, so I don't know. She may just have to say goodbye to it. Sorry, Kelsey. Okay, well, we have a Sergio. I'll just answer this real quick. Sergio Homorni, thank you for the super chat, Sergio. He says, why does taurine seem to make my bile less toxic? I'll just answer this real quick. Okay. The bile recipe, the different bile acids in it, they can be conjugated or bound to taurine, glycine, sulfate. And what the research shows is that there are, like with taurine, you start taking more taurine, there's more taurine available to bind to bile acids. Okay. Is that good or is it bad? Well, if you look in the research, certain bile acids, when they're bound to taurine or not, are more or less toxic. Same thing with glycine. Some glycine-bound ones become more or less toxic. And so depending upon your bile recipe at the moment, taurine can help it. If you have more taurine there to bind, it could make the bile acid recipe less toxic. It could make it more toxic. This is why I say there's people out there who push taurine and glycine on everybody. And I'm like, no, don't do that, because it'd be like saying more salt is good for every recipe. And then people would very quickly go, no, there's plenty of recipes that more salt would ruin. This is the same thing with taurine and glycine and sulfate. We don't want to ruin the recipe, but if you try it and you quickly know that you feel better or you feel worse, then for the period of time, that's helping. If you feel better, it's helping the bile recipe to be less toxic. And if you feel worse, then it's making it more toxic. And like glycine for me will cause raging insomnia very quickly. So I don't touch it. Does that mean I'm a bad person? No, it just means it changes my bile recipe in a bad way. So that's it. So let's keep going. Okay. Oh, wait, there was somebody saying, Alec Jackson 746 says, Ken, what is up, bro? Love this guy. I don't know if you know him, but anyway, he's here. Okay, let's see this one. Heterodox-agnostic 8070 says, I have overbite. My upper front teeth hides 5 millimeter of my lower front teeth and 4 millimeter inside. All my teeth lock like a jigsaw. It seems unrealistic to undo. What do you have to say about that?
No, I think the bite will unlock pretty quickly. If they're wearing a mouth, overbites are hard because it's hard to unlock at the beginning, because the one bite's completely coming over the other. So typically, it unlocks relatively easy because a little bit of the teeth move, and all of a sudden, you're only making contact on the front teeth or one of these other teeth. But with an overbite, it's harder. So with an overbite, it's just more important to keep the teeth separated during the day as well. So if you can, wear the mouth guard at night, wear like the day guard, or you can wear plackers or clip-ons, these other things during the day, and just keep the teeth separated 24/7. And it will, like, things will move very quickly when you're in overbite because they're out of position so much that it generally moves faster and it's a bit more intense, but it'll move.
Awesome. Okay, Joe, if you want to add something, Joe wanted to talk about how ozone can be injected into the gums and instantly relieve back pain. The meridians connecting each tooth to other parts of the body. So yeah, Joe, if you want to throw something in here, let everybody hear you.
Yeah, my camera's not working, but can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, I've followed a lot of strange ozone things for like a decade, and I've seen these doctors and patients where, there's they've got a problem with the part of their body, like maybe their back or something, and then they find that there was some sort of problem in the gums under the teeth, and they inject a little bit of ozone in there, and then all of a sudden, like it's almost instant, it gives relief to these other parts of their body. So I talked to an ozone therapist in Mexico. He was a good friend of mine before he passed away, and he talked about this concept is known as German acupuncture, and it's this idea of interconnecting certain meridians, and this all makes a lot of sense to me. I had a partner who had a tooth on the front, which they did a root canal on, and it was just dying and it was starting to turn black and all this stuff, and then she had a corresponding place. I think it was her kidney or something was this corresponding meridian, and once she had that tooth pulled, I think whatever it was, this other part of the body started improving. And so anyway, I just wanted to offer that. The other thing I noticed just now, I was using a kind of a mouth guard to keep I have an overbite, and keeping my teeth in more alignment in the front has been something I've been trying to do at night, and so on and so forth, because I keep hearing you talk about this. And I noticed that when I thought about traumatic issues from the past, that I could sense the wave of the energetics of the trauma passing through my body in a different way, where it kind of, I'm processing. I could feel something from back then, but it also seemed to dissipate differently in a more synergetic way. Anyway, that's what I wanted to say.
Cool. Yeah. Well, there is the acupuncture meridian connection, as they say, to all the teeth. And there was that research on, I don't know if I have the link, but it was breast cancer, where they could find that like almost every woman with breast cancer had like a root canal on the same tooth. So this stuff does all seem to be intricately connected in this, and it makes sense that like if each tooth is connected to a meridian, that if we get the teeth to move back to where they should be, then we could have all these far-reaching impacts on the body's health all over the place. You have anything to add on that, Ken?
No, like one thing I would add is I think one day they're going to figure out these patterns of collapse. And I think a lot of it's going to point to like your teeth, and what's going on is just a reflection of like things that are wrong with your skeleton. And that's why a lot of these can come up as patterns. And I can see like I've never gone too deep in it, but like I definitely think that the body has a lot of different ways it can collapse, but there are like set patterns and probably ways that if you got cancer, like you probably collapsed in a certain way that was likely to give you cancer and certain things like this.
Well, we look at cancer as tissue the body makes to store toxicity. Like it's actually like a storage unit of toxicity. And so if the collapse was getting in the way of proper detox, then it makes sense that you would accumulate toxicity, and then it could show up as cancer eventually. So yeah. Okay, so let me see. So this is Jana asks, are Mr. Ken's stretching techniques on his website, and do you have to pay to access?
They're in our school community. And we give everyone 30 days free and like their YouTube videos. So you can just spend the 30 days and do them, and you'll have the YouTube links, and they're pretty easy to pick up. But it's not the only way to stretch. Like, it's what I've found works very quickly on me.
I remember when I first was looking at, I think, the school stuff or the stretching techniques, it might have been your Substack article. You might have had something there, but you were kind of showing like kind of stretching the front of the body and also stretching the back of the body. And I went, that's exactly what I do a lot of in my stretching stuff in the gym. And then I went in and I had the mouth guard, and all of a sudden I was more flexible in those. So that was a very interesting thing. And now my stretches feel, when I'm doing, because I do quite a bit of stretching, they don't feel as, when stretching feels kind of burny and really uncomfortable, I have so much less of that feeling now. It's just kind of like just stretching. It's not the discomfort that it used to be. So it's totally changed the quality of what I feel during it. Okay. So, but yeah, Jana, you get a month with every mouth guard. You get a month to the school community with every mouth guard. So you can go in and get those. Yes. Okay. So Timothy J. Lockhead says, I have an R3, been wearing it just over a week and didn't have any gum sensitivity. So yeah, so the R3 is a little shorter in the front. Let's see. So, okay, Janice says, I could hardly measure the width of my husband's back teeth. His jaws are so bad that he can hardly open his mouth that wide. Medium size. I don't know. Ken, do you have anything on that in terms of the not being able to measure? And I mean, if he's a grown adult male, I would probably go with the large, but I'll let you answer, Ken.
Yeah. And if he can fit a piece of bread, you just, like, the easiest way is like a piece of bread or something where you bite and just measure the widest point in the bite and then compare that to your sizing guide. Like
a simple little bread mold, right? Or a bread. Okay, that's brilliant. Very good. Okay. So, okay, question from Lisa B. Says, good morning. If you have implants and bridges, will it help or not?
Implants, I think it's okay. It's going to put a little pressure on the implant, but so far, like, nobody's had them get loose. But the implant could look out of place because the rest of the teeth are going to remodel. The implant's not, right? So that's one thing. So if people are thinking about implant, I generally say, like, wait, remodel the teeth for the most part, and then like put the implant later. Bridges are different. Like, bridges are locking a few teeth together, and those teeth should move with this process. So it's a little bit like the retainer, right? Like, ideally you don't have a bridge, but if you have a bridge, it's going to mitigate things, and things will still work, just not as much.
Okay, that makes sense. So let's see. Unlock the Constitution says, I feel that, I think they said they had one of the mouth guards already. I feel the jaw releasing on one side as if it's melting. I also deal with scoliosis, so it makes sense to me. I look forward to seeing which side releases now, and with the R2. Okay, so that's just making a comment. Megan Stevens at Eat Beautiful. We like Megan so much. Ken, hi and thank you. Can you speak to the scariness of feeling like the mouth guard is moving your teeth? My 16-year-old is a little freaked out by it hurting and feeling like his teeth are moving.
The teeth are moving, so that's just something you gotta accept. But, like, I view it as like they're moving in a healthy way. Like, I view that a mouth guard, the physics is going to I call it more of a door jam rather than orthodontics tries to put direct force with braces and aligners and try to, like, lateral force. Whereas the mouth guard is not anchored to anything. It's not putting much lateral force on the teeth. Rather, it's acting like a door jam that just stretches the tissue. And the teeth are moving because the bones and the jaw are moving. So the teeth are moving because in a way that they're aligned with the skull, rather than like orthodontics moves things out of alignment with the skull. So teeth are moving, but, like, I view it as, they're moving in a healthy way, and that's why you're not going to get root resorption and things that are associated with orthodontics.
I just want to add my thing to that, because at the start, Megan, I definitely felt like, well, yeah, Ken, you know about this, where you feel like the teeth are moving, right? And so they feel like they might feel a little loose, but then I went and I wiggled them and they're not loose. You just, they I don't know. There was enough change pressure on them, whatever you want to call it, that they felt different. And then my bite was different after I took out the mouth guard. And I got to the point where it was mostly the front teeth, just a couple front teeth touching. and that stays longer. So I think Megan, what I can say is that that feeling that your 16-year-old, was it, you didn't say whether it was I forget if it was a daughter or a son, but anyway, the 16-year-old freaking out a little bit, that sensation gets less as it goes. Is that right, Ken? Is that what you've observed?
Yeah, it gets less. And if the teeth, with some folks, the tooth can get a little bit loose. So just, I say, if it gets very loose, like take a break for a day or two, let it tighten up, and then keep going.
Yeah, it's the same thing with the gum irritation. If your gums are feeling too rough, just take a day or two off. Or I tell people you could probably wear it during the day. If it's not feeling good, at night when you've got nothing else to distract you and you have some discomfort, you're going to focus on that because you got nothing else to distract you. So what I like is doing it during exercise when you're distracted, and both you have like the cortisol and the adrenaline going, and so you have a bit of your own natural painkillers, and so you don't feel it as much. So both the distraction and the natural painkillers your body puts out in exercise helps you to feel it less. So that's just another way to get in more time with it. Let's see. Let's see. Okay, so we have Timothy says, I recently got an R3, have had overnight retainers, and after a few months of R3, my bottom jaw is more forward, so the front teeth are touching, but not the back molars. I wasn't sure what was going on. I'll just say it before Ken goes. I think this is normal, and that's what I have right now. So Ken, go ahead.
That is the posterior open bite, essentially. And the easiest way to get posterior open bite is you had a normal kind of class 1 occlusion where the upper teeth are coming over, and then this kind of frees things up, and now the lower jaw comes forward a little, or the teeth uprighted, and you're only making contact in the front teeth. And because of that, because it was like it moved up, you have more vertical in your mouth, which is a good thing, but the back teeth are not going to touch.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I have now, and it used to last only a short time after the mouth guard, maybe an hour or two, and as I've worn it more, it's lasting through the day pretty much. Yeah. Okay. Joe wants to biofield tune someone who is wearing one of these mouth guards. Free offer. So if you guys want to talk to Joe in the chat, you can do that. Joe, I'm your Huckleberry. I'll do it too if you want to do it. We're in touch all the time. Joe says, what about people with dentures?
Dentures are more complex. So my mom has upper dentures, and I definitely think she's not getting the full benefit of the process, because all the teeth are supposed to remodel and move with this process, and with dentures, they're kind of all fixed. So I've never had dentures myself, and you would need, ideally, like if you wanted to get the most out of this process, you would need someone that could change the dentures and kind of evolve it quickly and cheaply with you. And it's not easy to find that person.
Well, it's probably tough to find a dentist who will even do the composite that you want, right?
Yeah. In America, yeah. And they usually want to like sell you on something else. So
get a full mouth of implants. Like I saw an ad for that in LA. I was like, they're like $20,000, a whole mouth of implants. And I was like, this world is just going bonkers.
Yeah. And I've gotten a few stories of people that did that, and the health dropped off a cliff.
Yeah. Oh, you guys, I mean, I do go to Ken's Substack and check out his stories of linking when people got like a bunch of dental work or orthodontics, and then their performance and their looks and all that stuff seemed to go downhill after it. So as I've always said, take your dental work, and if you choose to do any orthodontics, take it very seriously, as it could cause big problems. I'm sure Ken's going to say it will cause big problems. And like I'm paying the price with my son now. I'm kind of feeling like I wasted a bunch of money to potentially cause him some issues now. At the very least, I know how to get him out of it as soon as possible. So, yeah. Oh, and I just wanted to add, for those of you who are, since we're talking about toxicity and other stuff today, over the years, for those of you who have followed this channel or you've gone back and watched my old videos like 4 or 5 years ago, Ken, I don't know if you want to do this too, but you can go back and see that with the detox and the nutrient stuff, like my structure has literally changed. And then there was I started some mewing stuff and some hard gum, and I think there was some changes from that. And then now we've got the Reviv, and we're going to get even more changes from that. And I do want you guys to know, those of you who, Joe, I don't know if you have the hair loss program link, but anyway, the Reviv is going to be part of that, because you've mentioned you've had people, either you or you've had other people or both report hair benefits with it, correct?
Yeah. Myself too. I used to have like very thinning hair in the back, and now it's pretty thick.
Yeah. So, okay. Let's see. Okay. So we have Kathleen Jenner, who is a big fan. I know she is. My dad had most of his molars extracted. I got him a mouth guard to support things. Would you suggest delaying getting a partial denture until after he's used the R3 for some time? I think you already answered that, but go ahead.
Yeah, I would like, because the denture is just going to lock things where they are, and you want things to move and progress. So, I view that, you could probably have almost perfect structure with 2 teeth that made contact. So I don't know if he has that, but like, as long as something's holding up the structure of the teeth, and then you can wear something on top of it to hold the height, and then you do the mouth guard, and things will just continue to improve, and you worry about the teeth later.
Okay, cool. Oh, Joe made a comment. Imagine the damage of those metal fillings with copper and or other metals in them. Well, don't forget the mercury. How the copper interferes with the body's movement. Sperm, for example. Yeah. Y'all, I'm going to go over the paper. People don't know that today's amalgam fillings, not only do they have the mercury in them, which has always been a problem, but they're called high copper amalgams, and they're like up to 30% copper. So you're basically putting just a absorbable copper in your mouth, and you're becoming there was an article about copper wires being put on people to collect 6G energy to run their wearables. They are trying to turn you into an antenna with copper. That's why there's plant-based diet, and that's why there's all these alternative influencers pushing all sorts of copper. They are trying to turn you into a literal EMF antenna so they can collect energy out of you. And those of you who have seen the patent applications, that's what they want to do to you. Copper's part of that. Copper is the most conductive electric metal around. That's why we have our houses full of wiring of it. Like, they're going to turn you into the antenna. So don't do that. Okay. So Fernando Espin, this is a good question, I think. Does this replace mewing?
So I think they work well together. So I view this as just stretching soft tissue, right? And mewing is stretching soft tissue. Thumb pulling is stretching soft tissue. Yoga is stretching soft tissue. They all do essentially the same thing. And I think a mouth guard is very important if you're mewing, just because like you're probably not mewing, when you're sleeping. And in order to have the full benefit of the structure, you need to unlock the teeth. So like the people that I find will make the most progress in mewing are people that somehow manage to unlock their teeth. Maybe they mewed really hard or something. But the people that stayed in a locked bite, like their mewing results are typically going to be very small. Whereas the minute you pop a mouth guard in an eye, like you're going to unlock that bite.
Actually, yeah. Now that I'm thinking about it from this perspective, when I first started mewing, the mewing guy says to have your teeth just lightly together, which then would lock it in place, right? So things aren't going to move. And he was always speaking kind of poorly of this other group that does basically mewing, that says to keep a little space between your teeth and not lock them together. And when I first started mewing and I had my teeth just barely together, it actually flared up like the worst TMJ attack that hung around for months after that of my life. And then my lovely girlfriend said, what you want to do with your TMJ is have your jaw in the least energy using position, like the most comfortable resting position. And I was like, well, that's with my teeth apart. And then I started doing that. And then the mewing helped. I think like if you're not going to wear a mouth guard all day, right? I can't wear this mouth guard all day and talk. I can't, so if you're not wearing the mouth guard, it would be good to know mewing, and to be doing that. And or maybe you want to chew some of the hard gum, because the muscles shape our bones. If you want to reshape your bones, tugging on them with the muscles that do it would be good. So, but also to Ken's point, if somebody has bad alignment and bad structure, and then they start chewing hard gum, that's going to accelerate the collapse. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think in order to chew hard gum, I think you need to have unlocked your bite. If you have a locking bite, you're just chewing hard gum, like you're just reinforcing. But if you unlock it, then it's like putting a stretch in.
Awesome. I think we're almost out of questions. Let's see. Yeah, that's all we got. So we're at an hour and a half. So we'll end a little early today. I started a little late because I had big technical issues. Thank you, Ken, for waiting on me, because it was a little stressful this morning. I got a new computer, and I thought everything would be plug and play, and it's like, nope, it didn't. Of course, it never goes easy, right? So anyway, thank you all for coming. Ken, thank you for coming and answering these questions. I really appreciate you coming, because I think this is really going to help our people and anybody else who watches this. Do you have anything else you want to add at the end here?
No, I just want to say big thank you for inviting me, and for, all the folks that you've sent our way, and, they're just terrific. And yeah, thank you for everything. I've really enjoyed it.
Absolutely. And I'll put the code and the link down in the info box after we get this video up. And yeah, like I said, I'll probably do another video on the toxicity connections to cranial stuff, and then our testimonials from Love Your Liver members on the Reviv. A lot of you guys were in the chat, so I have your testimonials, and we'll go over that. And we'll just say thank you to Ken, and thank you to Joe for being the producer as usual, and we will see you all next week. Bye now.